Since 2020, over 400,000 people have left California, an exodus so massive it's reshaping the state's identity and economy. That's more than the entire population of Miami Beach, and the numbers keep climbing. In fact, California's population shrank for the first time in its history, with the state losing a congressional seat for the first time ever. All along the West Coast, from Seattle to San Diego, a similar story is unfolding. Oregon and Washington have also seen record numbers of residents packing up and heading east or south. People are fleeing cities that once promised opportunity and a better life. Take the Johnson family from Oakland. After struggling with rising rent and safety concerns, they made the difficult decision to move to Texas, seeking stability and affordable housing. Why? I'm Michael, and in this video, we're going to look at the hard facts. Experts like Dr. Lisa Hernandez, an urban economist, say we're witnessing a historic shift. The cost of living combined with social challenges is pushing people out faster than ever before. We'll investigate why the dream is dying in so many of America's most iconic urban centers. Once bustling neighborhoods now echo with silence, as schools and businesses close their doors. The reasons are complex, but they all point to systemic failure. Infrastructure is crumbling, and city budgets are stretched thin, unable to keep up with basic maintenance. Skyrocketing housing costs have pushed the middle class to the brink, with median home prices in San Jose and San Francisco now topping $1.3 million. Even renting is out of reach for many, with average rents in Los Angeles exceeding $2,700 a month. Meanwhile, a devastating homelessness crisis unfolds on the streets. According to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, over 170,000 people are homeless in California alone, with encampments now a common sight in every major city. Open-air drug markets, fueled by fentanyl, have become a common sight, overwhelming emergency services and leaving neighborhoods in crisis. And rising crime rates leave residents feeling unsafe. In 2023, San Francisco saw a 15% increase in property crime, while violent crime in Portland reached its highest level in decades. Add to that, a steady economic decline, with businesses shutting their doors. Over 40% of small businesses in Los Angeles failed to reopen after the pandemic, and tech layoffs have hit the Bay Area hard, and increasing environmental risks like wildfires make insurance impossible to get. In 2023 alone, wildfires destroyed thousands of homes, and major insurers have pulled out of the California market, leaving families with nowhere to turn. It's a perfect storm of bad policies and unintended consequences. Political gridlock and short-term fixes have only deepened the crisis, as leaders struggle to find solutions. These cities were once the envy of the world. People flocked here for the promise of innovation, diversity, and a better life. Hollywood, Silicon Valley, the vibrant counterculture of the Pacific Northwest, they defined what it meant to be modern and successful. The West Coast was a beacon for dreamers, artists, and tech pioneers. But today they tell a different story. Once thriving downtowns are now marked by decay and neglect. Once symbols of innovation and prosperity, these cities now serve as cautionary tales of modern urban failure. The tech boom has faded, and the creative energy that once defined these places is slipping away. We're going to examine 10 of them, one by one, to understand what went wrong and what it means for the future of America. Through statistics, personal stories, and expert commentary, we'll uncover the real reasons behind the West Coast exodus and what might come next. Portland, once affectionately known as the Rose City, was a beacon for dreamers, artists, and young professionals seeking a better quality of life. In the 1990s and early 2000s, the city was celebrated for its progressive values, lush parks, and a thriving local economy. People flocked here for affordable housing, a strong sense of community, and a promise of opportunity. It was quirky, green, and affordable, a model for progressive urban planning. Portland's commitment to sustainability and public transportation made it a national leader, drawing praise from urban planners across the country. But today, downtown Portland feels like a ghost town. The once bustling streets are eerily quiet, and the energy that defined the city has faded. The office vacancy rate has soared to a staggering 35%, one of the highest in the nation. Once a magnet for tech startups and creative agencies, Portland's commercial core is now dotted with empty buildings and for lease signs. Businesses that survived the pandemic are now closing due to a lack of customers. According to the Portland Business Alliance, over 200 small businesses have shut their doors since 2020, unable to recover from from the economic shock and ongoing decline in foot traffic. The city's slogan was, "Keep Portland Weird." Now, it's just weirdly empty. The vibrant street art and quirky culture remain. But without the crowds, it feels like a relic of a different era. The emptiness is filled by a devastating fentanyl crisis. Overdose deaths have tripled in the past 5 years, and open drug use is now a common sight in many neighborhoods. Addiction is rampant, fueling an explosion in homelessness. The city's homeless population has surged to over 6,600 people, a 50% increase since 2019, according to Multnomah County data. Social services are overwhelmed, unable to cope with the scale of the problem. Shelters are at capacity, and wait lists for affordable housing stretch for months, leaving many with nowhere to turn. Economically, the city is stagnating. Portland's GDP growth has slowed to just 0.8% in the past year, far below the national average. Retail sales are down, and tourism has yet to recover. High-paying jobs are disappearing, replaced by lower-wage service work. The tech sector, once a bright spot, has seen major layoffs. While many residents now rely on gig work or part-time jobs to make ends meet, the city government, facing a shrinking tax base, proposes more taxes, encouraging more businesses and residents to leave. Property taxes have risen by 12% in the last 2 years, further straining homeowners and small business owners. The population is now declining for the first time in decades. In 2022, in 23 alone, Portland lost nearly 8,000 residents, reversing a trend of steady growth since the 1980s. People are voting with their feet, abandoning the city for suburbs or other states. Many cite safety concerns, unaffordable housing, and a lack of economic opportunity as their reasons for leaving. The promise of Portland was a city that worked for everyone. Residents remember a time when neighborhoods were safe, schools were strong, and the city felt united by a shared vision. But that promise has been broken. Community spaces that once brought people together now sit empty, and the sense of belonging has faded. The policies meant to create a progressive utopia have led to decay. Years of political gridlock and controversial reforms have left the city struggling to address its most urgent challenges. Portland's story is a critical warning. The rapid unraveling of its social fabric and economic base shows how quickly fortunes can change. It shows how quickly a thriving city can decline when leaders prioritize ideology over practical solutions. Residents, both new and old, express frustration at the lack of effective action and the city's inability to adapt. The city that was once a symbol of American urban success has become a powerful symbol of its failure. For many, the heartbreak is personal, a loss of the city they once loved. It's a cautionary tale that every other city on this list should study closely. Portland's decline is not just a local tragedy, it's a warning for cities everywhere about the consequences of ignoring economic realities and the voices of residents. Los Angeles, once the epicenter of the American dream, a city where ambition and creativity thrived, and where millions flocked in search of a better life. But today, the dream is unraveling before our eyes. The name conjures images of glamour, sunshine, and endless opportunity. For decades, Los Angeles was a beacon for dreamers, artists, and entrepreneurs. But for millions, that dream has become a nightmare. The city's streets now tell a different story, one of struggle, displacement, and despair. The homelessness crisis has reached epic proportions. According to a recent case study by the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority, the number of people living without shelter has increased by over 20% in just the past 2 years. Vast tent cities stretch for blocks, from Venice Beach to Skid Row. Local business owner Maria Hernandez describes the impact. "We used to have tourists and families. Now, it's just survival for everyone." Over 75,000 people are homeless in LA County. Social impact analysts warn that the crisis is straining public resources and deepening social divides. The root of the problem is housing, unaffordable for most. Case studies show that even full-time workers are unable to secure stable housing, with many forced into temporary shelters or onto the streets. The median home price is approaching $1 million. For many, home ownership is now an impossible dream. Renters often pay more than half their income for housing. Social impact studies reveal that this financial strain leads to increased mental health issues and family instability. The middle class is being priced out. In a recent interview, the Johnson family shared, "We love LA, but we just can't afford to stay. We're moving to Arizona for a fresh start." Young people have no hope of owning a home. Many are leaving the state, taking their talents and dreams elsewhere. The city has become a playground for the very rich. Social impact analysts warn that this growing wealth gap is fueling resentment and social unrest. A new crisis looms: the insurance apocalypse. Homeowners like David Lee are left in limbo. "We did everything right, but now we can't get insurance. We're one disaster away from losing everything." Wildfire risks have led major insurers to stop writing new policies. Homeowners face financial instability, and entire communities are left vulnerable. Crime adds to the anxiety. Smash-and-grab robberies are routine, and business owners are struggling to stay afloat. Viral videos of these incidents shatter the perception of safety. Residents like Angela Martinez say, "We don't feel safe anymore. It's not the city I grew up in." The California dream is fading fast. Social impact analysis shows a growing sense of hopelessness and loss of community. Los Angeles is no longer a symbol of hope. It's a warning. The end of the West Coast dream is not just a headline, it's a reality lived by millions, and a challenge that will define the future of America's cities. Across the bay from San Francisco lies Oakland, a city long known for its resilience and toughness, but in recent years, that toughness has been tested to its breaking point. Oakland's infrastructure, its roads, bridges, and public transit, has struggled to keep up with the demands of a growing population and shrinking budget. Aging water mains burst with increasing frequency, and potholes riddle the streets, making daily commutes a challenge for everyone. But lately, that toughness has curdled into exhaustion. Residents face not just physical obstacles but a constant mental strain from living in a city that feels like it's falling apart. Oakland has one of the highest crime rates in the country. According to recent FBI statistics, violent crime in Oakland is nearly 3 times the national average, and property crime is even higher. Car break-ins are common, and violent crime remains a threat. For many, the fear of theft or assault is a daily reality, adding to the city's collective anxiety. Businesses are closing due to theft and soaring security costs. The Oakland Chamber of Commerce reports that over 20% of small businesses have shut their doors in the past 2 years, unable to cope with repeated losses. People are tired of constant stress and crime. Mental health professionals in Oakland have seen a 35% increase in patients reporting anxiety and depression since 2020, according to the Alameda County Health Department. Major businesses have fled, and the city faces a massive budget deficit. Experts warn that without significant intervention, Oakland's tax base will continue to erode, making recovery even harder. The housing crisis hits hard, with high rents and struggling landlords. Nearly 60% of Oakland renters are considered cost-burdened, spending more than a third of their income on housing, while evictions and homelessness are on the rise. Oakland's collapse isn't loud and dramatic. As Dr. Lisa Hernandez, a local sociologist, puts it, it's a slow unraveling, a city worn down by 1,000 small cuts, each one harder to heal than the last. It's a slow, grinding process. The energy that once defined Oakland is fading, replaced by fatigue and uncertainty. The city is on the brink, worn down by crime, economic decline, and ineffective government. As one city planner notes, resilience has its limits. Even the strongest communities can only take so much. Oakland is a city on the edge, exhausted, but still hoping for a turnaround. The question is, how much longer can it hold on? San Francisco, once the capital of the future, is now in retreat. The city that once symbolized innovation and prosperity is facing a dramatic reversal of fortune. People are leaving in droves, driven out by absurd living costs and a sense that the city no longer offers what it once promised. The exodus is visible in every neighborhood as moving trucks line the streets and once crowded apartment buildings empty out. The median home price is over $1.5 million, putting homeownership out of reach for most residents. Even those who can afford to buy are questioning whether it's worth it as property values stagnate and neighborhoods lose their vibrancy. A one-bedroom apartment can cost $3,500 a month, and vacancies are rising as more people opt to leave rather than pay sky-high rents for shrinking amenities. This extreme cost creates shocking inequality, with luxury condos standing side by side with sprawling homeless encampments. The gap between rich and poor has never been more visible. The tech elite live in luxury, while homelessness and drug crises persist just outside their doors. The city's streets have become a stark reminder of the social divide. The tech industry, once the city's economic engine, is sputtering. Massive layoffs have left entire office floors empty, and the promise of endless growth has faded. Remote work has hollowed out the downtown core. Streets that once bustled with commuters are now eerily quiet, and the city's famed cable cars roll past empty sidewalks. Office towers sit mostly empty, their glass facades reflecting a city that's lost its pulse. The vacancy rate in downtown San Francisco is at a historic high, with entire buildings standing unused. Small businesses have been decimated, beloved local shops and restaurants have closed their doors, unable to survive without the daily flow of office workers and tourists. The city faces a doom loop of decline. As businesses close, fewer people come downtown, which leads to even more closures and a growing sense of abandonment. Fewer workers mean less spending, leading to more closures. The economic ecosystem that once sustained the city is unraveling, and the effects ripple outward to every corner of San Francisco. San Francisco's story is a tragedy of contradictions. The city's iconic beauty stands in stark contrast to the decay and neglect spreading through its neighborhoods. It champions progressive values, but presides over a humanitarian crisis. Despite ambitious policies, the city struggles to provide basic services to its most vulnerable residents. It's home to immense wealth, but can't keep its streets clean or safe. The contrast between opulence and neglect is impossible to ignore. The city's collapse is a collapse of the social contract. Public infrastructure is crumbling, and faith in local government is at an all-time low. Even the richest cities can fail when they become unlivable. The divide between privilege and poverty grows wider as more residents flee, and those left behind struggle to get by. The Golden Gate is still there, but the Golden Age is over. San Francisco's hollow core is a warning to cities everywhere. When the heart of a city empties out, rebuilding becomes a monumental challenge. Sacramento, once seen as the sensible alternative to California's expensive coastal cities, is now facing a crisis that threatens its very identity. The city's reputation for affordability and stability is unraveling at an alarming pace. Years of economic strain, environmental disasters, and political gridlock have left deep scars. The once thriving neighborhoods now struggle with blight and neglect, as families and businesses alike are forced to make tough choices. The affordability that once defined Sacramento is gone. Soaring housing prices have pushed many residents to the brink, with young families and first-time buyers finding themselves priced out of the market. As home values skyrocket, the dream of homeownership is slipping away for many. The city's housing crisis has become a flashpoint for frustration and activism, with residents demanding action from local leaders. Sacramento's political turmoil is only making things worse. The city faces a massive budget deficit, forcing lawmakers into bitter standoffs over spending cuts and tax hikes. State jobs are being slashed, and essential services are on the chopping block. As the city's finances unravel, crime is on the rise. Residents are increasingly worried about their safety, and community groups are stepping up to fill the gaps left by shrinking police budgets. The sense of order and security that once set Sacramento apart is eroding. Community members are organizing cleanups and neighborhood watches, but the challenges are mounting. More and more people are choosing to leave, frustrated by high costs, political infighting, and a growing sense of instability. Sacramento is no longer insulated from California's broader problems, it's now a symbol of them. The capital city is losing its appeal as political turmoil, budget woes, and community struggles converge. Sacramento's crisis is a warning for cities across the West Coast. No place is immune to the pressures of our changing times. Eugene, Oregon, once celebrated for its vibrant counterculture and progressive spirit, now finds itself at a crossroads. The city's unique identity, shaped by decades of music festivals, artisan markets, and grassroots activism, is slowly slipping away. The rising cost of living has forced many long-time residents out, while homelessness has surged to one of the highest rates per capita in the nation. The faces of the city are changing, as families who once gathered for Saturday market or cheered at local duck games are replaced by transient populations struggling to survive. Parks and public spaces, once alive with community picnics, art fairs, and impromptu concerts, are now overrun by encampments. The laughter of children and the strum of guitars have faded, replaced by the daily struggle for shelter and safety. Social programs, once a point of pride for Eugene's compassionate community, are stretched to their breaking point. Food pantries and shelters are overwhelmed, and volunteers speak of burnout as they try to fill the widening gaps. Economically, Eugene is reeling. Local businesses that define the city's quirky charm, record shops, independent bookstores, and family-run cafes, are shuttering. Help-wanted signs hang next to going out of business notices, a stark symbol of a city in distress. The city's traditions are vanishing. Annual events like the Oregon Country Fair and the Eugene Celebration, once magnets for creativity and togetherness, have dwindled or disappeared. The benches in the parks sit empty, overgrown with grass, as the spirit that once animated Eugene grows dim. Local voices echo the sense of loss. Longtime residents recall a Eugene where neighbors knew each other, where art and activism thrived, and where diversity was celebrated. Now, changing demographics and economic hardship have left many feeling disconnected from the city they once loved. Eugene's story is a microcosm of the broader West Coast collapse, a fading culture, lost traditions, and a community searching for hope amid uncertainty. Seattle, once a beacon of innovation and opportunity, now finds itself grappling with the very forces that fueled its meteoric rise. The city's tech boom, led by giants like Amazon and Microsoft, has transformed the skyline and economy, but not without consequences. Home prices in Seattle have skyrocketed, pushing many longtime residents out of the city. The influx of high-paid tech workers has driven up rents and property values, making it nearly impossible for middle and lower-income families to stay. This housing crisis has spilled over into neighboring cities like Tacoma, once considered an affordable refuge. As housing becomes more scarce and expensive, homelessness has surged. Both Seattle and Tacoma are struggling to provide adequate shelter and services, with public resources stretched thin. Crime rates have risen, and many neighborhoods feel less safe than ever before. Infrastructure is buckling under the weight of a growing population. Daily commutes between Seattle and Tacoma are grueling, with traffic congestion and overburdened public transit systems. Roads and bridges, many decades old, are in desperate need of repair. The economic divide is growing. While tech companies thrive, many small businesses have closed their doors, unable to keep up with rising costs and changing demographics. The city's unique character is fading, replaced by a sense of uncertainty and loss. For many, Seattle is no longer the city they once knew. Families are forced to move farther away in search of affordability, while others leave the region entirely. Lifelong residents share stories of being priced out of their own neighborhoods, watching as their communities change beyond recognition. Seattle's challenges are casting a long shadow over the entire region. Tacoma, once a symbol of hope for those priced out of the city, is now facing the same struggles. As both cities grapple with identity, affordability, and the consequences of rapid growth, the question remains: can Seattle and its neighbors find a way forward, or will they continue to collapse under the weight of their own success? San Diego, long celebrated as America's finest city, is now a place where the dream of coastal living is slipping out of reach for many. The city's beauty and climate are undeniable, but so is the sticker shock. The median home price has soared past $900,000, making homeownership a distant fantasy for most residents. Even modest condos fetch prices that would buy a mansion in other parts of the country. The local economy, once buoyed by tech and tourism, is struggling to keep up. Many high-paying tech jobs have left for more affordable cities, leaving behind a service sector that can't support the cost of living. One resident, Maria, a lifelong San Diegan, says she works 2 jobs just to afford a 1-bedroom apartment. "I love this city, but I don't know how much longer I can stay," she admits. Families are packing up and leaving in record numbers, seeking affordable lives in states like Arizona, Texas, and Idaho. Businesses, meanwhile, are desperate for workers, but can't offer wages high enough to compete with the cost of rent. Environmental risks only add to the financial pressure. Wildfires, droughts, and flooding are becoming more frequent, driving up insurance costs and making some neighborhoods nearly uninsurable. Meanwhile, the city's infrastructure is buckling under the strain. Water main breaks, pothole-ridden roads, and aging buildings are becoming the norm, with little relief in sight. San Diego's decline isn't dramatic or sudden. It's a slow, creeping erosion of what made the city special. Neighborhoods that once bustled with families and small businesses now feel hollowed out. San Diego is transforming into a luxury product, an exclusive enclave for the wealthy, rather than a real city for everyone. For many, the paradise they once called home is now just a memory, priced out of reach. Spokane, once celebrated for its affordability and quality of life, is now facing a crisis that mirrors the struggles of larger West Coast cities. For years, people flocked here to escape the soaring costs of Seattle and Portland, but now, even Spokane is slipping out of reach for many longtime residents and newcomers alike. Over the past 5 years, Spokane's median home price has jumped by more than 60%, according to the Spokane Association of Realtors. Rents have followed suit, with average monthly costs now exceeding $1,400, a staggering figure for a city once known for its affordability. This surge has created an affordability crisis, pushing working families to the brink and forcing many to leave the city altogether. As housing insecurity grows, so does crime. Spokane's violent crime rate has risen by nearly 20% since 2020, with property crimes like burglary and auto theft also on the rise. Local law enforcement and residents alike are alarmed as the city's reputation as a safe haven is rapidly eroding. Neighborhoods once considered peaceful now face regular reports of break-ins and vandalism. The local economy is showing signs of strain. Spokane's unemployment rate has ticked upward, and many of the jobs available are in low-wage sectors like retail and hospitality. High-paying opportunities are scarce, and the city's once thriving manufacturing base has shrunk dramatically. Small businesses are closing their doors, unable to keep up with rising costs and declining foot traffic. The result is a growing exodus. In 2023 alone, Spokane saw a net loss of residents for the first time in over a decade. Moving companies report record demand, as families and young professionals seek more stable prospects elsewhere. Spokane's story is a clear sign that the West Coast's urban problems are no longer confined to the coast. They're spreading inland, reshaping the fabric of communities once thought immune. The collapse is moving inland, transforming stable communities into crisis zones. Once vibrant neighborhoods are now marked by empty homes, neglected parks, and a sense of uncertainty about the future. Spokane is a stark warning that no city is immune. The decay is systemic, fueled by a combination of rising costs, economic fragility, and social challenges. As these issues spread further inland, they threaten to unravel the stability of communities across the region, reminding us that the urban crisis is no longer just a coastal problem, but a national one. Seattle, once a boomtown and a symbol of innovation, has lost its shine. The city that once drew dreamers and tech giants now faces a complex web of challenges that threaten its future. The homelessness crisis is impossible to ignore. Despite millions spent on programs, encampments have become a permanent fixture in parks and underpasses. Families and individuals struggle to find shelter, while the city's resources are stretched thin. The housing market is a tale of two cities. Skyrocketing rents and home prices have pushed out long-time residents, deepening the divide between the wealthy and those barely scraping by. Gentrification has transformed entire neighborhoods, but affordable housing remains elusive. The tech industry, once seen as infallible, is now facing layoffs and uncertainty. As remote work becomes the norm, once bustling office towers stand half-empty, and the city's economic engine sputters. Remote work has devastated downtown Seattle. Small businesses that relied on office workers have closed their doors, leaving entire blocks eerily quiet. The city's vibrant core now feels hollow. Public trust in leadership is low. Years of shifting policies and political infighting have left many residents feeling unheard and unprotected. Efforts to address homelessness, crime, and affordability have often stalled or backfired, fueling frustration. Crime and public disorder are rampant. Businesses and residents alike worry about safety as property crimes and vandalism rise. The city's reputation for livability is now overshadowed by stories of unrest and insecurity. Seattle's story is a lesson in the limits of growth. Environmental issues compound the city's woes. Pollution in Puget Sound, declining salmon runs, and the ever-present threat of climate change. Urban sprawl and unchecked development have strained natural resources, while air and water quality suffer. The city's prosperity has created problems it can't solve. Traffic congestion and pollution worsen as infrastructure lags behind growth. Environmental policies, though ambitious, often fall short in the face of rapid change and limited funding. Seattle is a city rich in money but poor in solutions. the community's resilience is tested daily as residents band together to support one another and fight for a better future. But without bold, effective public policy and a renewed commitment to environmental stewardship, the Emerald City's decline may only accelerate. From Portland's empty towers where once thriving businesses now stand silent and vacant, to Los Angeles' sprawling tent cities where entire communities struggle to survive on the margins, the West Coast is facing a slow, systemic collapse that experts warn could foreshadow challenges for cities nationwide. We've walked through 10 cities, each with its own unique story of struggle and resilience, but the themes are tragically the same: urban decay, rising inequality, and a sense of lost direction. Urban planners and economists point to a convergence of factors: housing shortages, stagnant wages, and a lack of political will to address root causes. A crisis of affordability has pushed the middle class to the breaking point, forcing families to make impossible choices: stay and struggle, or leave in search of hope. Leadership has faltered in addressing crime and homelessness, with policies often reactive rather than proactive, leaving vulnerable populations exposed. The economic model, once a beacon of innovation, now creates immense wealth for a select few while leaving the majority behind. The American dream, which once shone so brightly from these coastal cities, is now flickering, threatened by forces both internal and external. It is being extinguished, not by a natural disaster, but by a series of man-made crises. Decades of restrictive policies have made it harder to build, harder to do business, and harder to enforce basic standards of public order. Experts like Dr. Emily Carter, an urban policy analyst, warn that unless cities adapt, the exodus will accelerate. "We're seeing a feedback loop," she says, "where dysfunction drives people away, and their departure further erodes the tax base and social fabric. The people who are leaving, the families, the workers, the entrepreneurs, are not abandoning the dream. They are searching for it elsewhere, in places where opportunity still feels possible. They are not giving up on hope. They are carrying it with them, determined to rebuild their lives and communities. They are voting with their feet, sending a powerful message to leaders and policymakers. The status quo is no longer acceptable. Their message is clear. The system is broken, and urgent action is needed. Collapse isn't sudden. It seeps in through rising costs, failing systems, and fading hope. It's in the price of gas, the closure of schools, the breakdown of public transit, and the daily struggles of ordinary people. These cities, once symbols of progress and innovation, now serve as stark warnings for the rest of the nation. In 2025, they stand as living cautionary tales, reminding us that no city is immune to decline. The story of the West Coast is not just about loss. It's a call to action for all of America. It shows us that prosperity is fragile, and that even the most successful cities can falter if they lose sight of what matters most. But there is hope. Experts suggest that with bold leadership, community engagement, and a renewed focus on opportunity, safety, and shared purpose, cities can recover. The lesson from the West Coast is clear. We must invest in affordable housing, support small businesses, and rebuild trust in our institutions. We must listen to those who are leaving and to those who remain, and work together to restore the promise of the American dream. The question now is whether anyone is listening, and whether we have the courage to act before it's too late.